All right. Hi, everyone. It's Belinda Weaver here, and I'm joined by Rananda Rich on this side. Hi, Renanda.
Hi.
Today, we are talking about content marketing because this is something that most small business owners will have on their radar, even if they don't like to do it and they don't make time for it. As copywriters, it's usually something that we have on our radar because we create the content for other people. But that can sometimes mean we don't create it for ourselves and we don't make time for it in our business. We are the classic mechanic with the car broken down. And so what I want to talk to you about today, Renanda, because you are the confident copywriter in the spotlight right now, and you have some really cool ways to make content creation super easy. You're doing it for other business owners, but I wanted to talk about what you do so that copywriters as well can kind of rethink the barriers between them and creating content. So Kirsten's tuning in live. Hello. I was going to say, if you're watching live, say hello. If you're watching the replay, drop hashtag replay. But Renanda, can you introduce yourself to everyone here, please?
Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Renanda. I'm the founder of The Ink Rat, and I set up the business about 7 years ago. And 3 years ago this week, I went into the business full time. And that happens to coincide with my membership for confident copywriting. So it's 3 years since I became a confident copywriter. And I have to say, it was one of my first business decisions.
Yes. Wow. That's such great timing. You're the confident copywriter in the spotlight. We're doing this interview. Your business has come on leaps and bounds, especially in the last 12 months you've been. And that's why the reason you are the spotlight at the moment, because of the way you are rethinking how you do your business, what you invest in, how you are spending your time, and getting really strategic about it. So, and that really lends well to talking about content marketing. We're talking about getting strategic. So can you talk about what you do now in terms of your content marketing? Because it's not been this way, has it?
No. This has been quite a journey, because while I really enjoy helping other people, I much prefer to stay behind the scenes and to stay in my comfort zone of invisibility. That's where I prefer to be. And that kind of changed for me this year when I started publishing a blog on my website weekly. And that was good. That was going well. Except it didn't get a lot of reach, which again, I was quite happy with, because I was kind of singing to an empty amphitheater. And I think there is a time and place for it, but I wasn't getting a lot of reach. So what I'm actually doing now is I'm writing a blog monthly, and I am doing a social media post weekly on Instagram, LinkedIn, and I'm also playing around with Google My Business. So that's kind of where I have got to. And I pretty much use the monthly blog as a way to decide what I'm going to talk about then in the rest of my social media marketing, at least. Oh, sorry, Belinda, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I'm muted because I have my daughter here with me. But I like the fact that you're talking about building it up in layers. Don't bounce, please, darling. Building it up in layers, because we don't have to come out of the gate with the all singing, all dancing strategy. And I really I think the first takeaway for everyone is the blog, or at least a piece of content, becomes the cornerstone for everything else. Because that's one thing we've talked about a lot, is once you've had the idea for something, repurpose that idea into as many different formats as possible. So I love that you're doing that. And you're talking about not getting any reach. What sort of impact has it had on your business now? Because I know you're just getting the wheels going, but have you noticed an impact already?
I have. It's so interesting. I have to treat this like an experiment. I've been testing and iterating kind of all through the year, and the weekly blog wasn't working so well, so I've iterated into a monthly blog. And so just as an experiment, I put a post up on Instagram, and just as an experiment, I put a post up on LinkedIn. And I have been astounded at the fact that LinkedIn is where the business is coming from, because it wasn't originally my plan, but it seemed it seems like Instagram goes quickly. I think Instagram's been really great for proving that you're visible and having a point of reference for people to come and have a look. But what's been really interesting with LinkedIn is it's the place where business happens. It's where business people are. It's where they're thinking about their businesses. And I think it was you did an interview with John Espirian and about LinkedIn and about how it works. And I was very kind of gratified when I watched that back to see that I had actually kind of by accident figured out how to do it well. You don't have to go into LinkedIn a lot because the posts last quite a long time because of the way that people read LinkedIn and engage with LinkedIn. The posts seem to have quite a long shelf life compared to things on Instagram, which come and go in a flash. But what's been really interesting is I've had 3 separate pieces of work come to me from being visible on LinkedIn. And I would never have thought that would happen. So I would say experiment and test and keep iterating to see what works for you.
I love that. I love that. This is just an experiment, which means your whole business is not riding on whether this post works or it doesn't. Try things out. So I love that. And I also want to mention how you talk about tracking, like you track all of these things. And I think it's a point that many of us creatives, we don't do enough of this. We're like, oh, I'm not a numbers person, and it can come through to money and it can come through to analytics and insights and all that kind of thing. We just kind of throw it out there. And I hope I'm not speaking out of school for a lot of people watching. And that's how I am. But knowing the impact that posts can have and seeing what works helps you get more strategic with what you then post in the future, right?
Yeah. So when you did the CEO streak back in kind of January, March time, you really had us focus a lot on systems and processes. And it was around about that time that I was writing the weekly blog. But I also I wanted to track things, but I didn't just want to track things because I'm a nerdy former accountant. I actually wanted to track things because I wanted to gamify what my content marketing is about. I wanted to make it kind of fun, and I wanted to be able to see when I was winning and kind of when I wasn't, because it just seemed like a more engaging way to do it. So I set up a spreadsheet where I have outputs and I have inputs. So my inputs are how many people I follow, how many posts I make, and then on each of the platforms. And I'm on 5 platforms, if I'm honest. So in addition to Google My Business and LinkedIn and Instagram, I'm also on Twitter and Medium. And then I had outputs. So outputs was how many people followed me and also how many leads came through, regardless of which platform it was. So I can then go, what is my inputs? What's the number? And what's my outputs? And which ones are doing better? So I haven't posted a lot on Medium this year, for instance, and that's pretty much flatlined. It's stayed luckily it hasn't gone down, but it has flatlined and it's staying steady. But with Instagram, for instance, by just doing 1 post a week, my Instagram followers have increased by 27%. And so that means that I only have to keep doing 1 post a week and I will keep seeing a steady increase. Yeah. And I like seeing those results come through, and I like tracking each time I get a lead, I put it in there and I can see which weeks. I do it weekly. It's my last thing I do on a Friday before I close up my laptop for the weekend is get my stats in.
Yep. I love that. That helps you make key decisions. And I feel like this is a point, like I know if you're watching this going, oh my God, I can never do that. But like just file this away, because imagine cutting yourself some slack and only doing the things that work. Imagine realizing that you only have to post on one platform once a week instead of dancing in front of a reel 5 times a week. Like how empowering and invigorating that is.
So I set up the Ink Rat on LinkedIn as a company page. And my followers for the Ink Rat, because that was essentially kind of starting almost kind of from zero, they've increased by 800%, like every week on LinkedIn.
That's a pretty cool number.
No, I know. It's all, and look, honestly, it's off a very low base. So it's almost infinite because it was almost from zero. So don't be too kind of, the magic is all in the statistics, so you can interpret them any way you like, but there is definitely it's gone up by 8-fold. So
Yeah.
And just by putting on one post a week. And it's just so interesting to see how I act as a person on LinkedIn and how people react to the ink rat on LinkedIn. And I do a little bit of both. And again, it's just an experiment to see who engages with the ink rat and who engages with me.
Renanda. Interesting. So if you're watching this, treat it as an experiment, but check in with how that experiment is going and try new things and see what works. I love it. So let's talk about kind of why copywriters struggle to create content, because I know this is something, when we talked about the CEO Street, this has been an accountability, strategic work and accountability within my private coaching group, Confident Copywriting, and we've had a focus. And you didn't come to those with content marketing firing. So I suspect you probably have the same struggles that a lot of us have had when it comes to content marketing. What makes it so difficult for us as writers when we write all the time?
You mentioned it. Oh, and you mentioned it right at the beginning, and I think of it like a bit like plumber's tap. So they're in the sense of we're happy to work on other people's content and copy. Mm-hmm. And I think for us, there's actually three issues. One is time. The second is becoming incredibly self-conscious about ourselves.
Yes.
And I think the third is being unable to objectively assess whether what we've created is any good. We just lose perspective.
Yes.
And so we get scared. Well, I certainly get too scared to then put myself out there. As part of my experiments, by the way, is when I have put a post up, there is a tendency, I think, for people to want to rip it down or delete it if it doesn't do well. As part of my experiment, I have kept everyone up there because I don't want to ignore what hasn't worked. I want to kind of observe it and consider it in the bigger context. So I'm kind of, part of my experiment is not removing posts if they don't do well, but understanding they are part of the bigger portfolio of what I'm doing.
Absolutely. And it's also curiosity. Always treat what you're doing with curiosity, because it helps you detach from the outcome a little bit more. That's interesting. What's happening here? Mm-hmm. And there's also the idea that a lot of people will consume and listen and read and consider things you post on social media, content you create and put out into the world without clicking. I don't click on everything I read. It doesn't mean I don't walk away thinking, gee, that was insightful. That was interesting. And so you can't use the metrics of engagement as the make or break. And yes, the deleting posts, I'm kind of horrified, because if you put all that effort into publishing, like the publishing's the hard bit, and then just let it out there, because it's also a landscape. It's a digital footprint. And so when clients are like, who's this Renanda person? The ink rat. Cool, interesting. I'm just going to have a little look around. You have a footprint. You exist with opinions and expertise. So I love that notice as well. So let's talk about some ways we can make it easier, because I feel like you've been through all the difficult stages. We've been doing it together. You've come up with a great service for business owners, but let's talk about how we can make it easier for ourselves to just create and publish regular content.
I have to say that this kicked off for me big time with the July challenge that you ran in the Confident Copywriting group. And there were a couple of things which worked about this for me, because one was that I created a service around which I could hang all my content marketing. And when I say I created a service, I mean, I formalized something which a lot of people do, but I just made something a little bit fun with it. And we can talk about that in a second. But the other thing that really worked for me was having this kind of July challenge, but every week there was a good, better, best version. And I hadn't come across this before in any challenges I'd ever done before. And so my good version, the very minimum, was that I was going to put a post up on social media in the month of July. Now, I ended up posting every week in July, and I ended up posting on 3 platforms. So I really went to the best. But what happened is I set the bar so low with my good that it was almost impossible not to do it. and it gave me the impetus to go for better and then and go for best. And it felt like it was a series of smaller steps and one big leap into getting it done. And the other thing I would say related to that was doing what is manageable. So
Yes.
I didn't say even my best was not posting every day, which I know everyone recommends that you post every day, but I think the best is what is the best that is kind of consistent and achievable. And that's what, and I'm kind of just, I hear it and I take the advice, but I have to do what's manageable.
Yes.
Because I think more than anything, and it's going to be my word for next year as well, consistency is my word for next year. And I've already adopted it for this year, because just if all I can do is one post a week, but 52 times, that is way better than going hard for 2 weeks of daily posts and then stopping because I'm exhausted.
And then also the point of stopping, because we often do this at New Year's. We're like, I'm going to start meditating and exercising. I'm going to read an hour a day and I'm going to go walking. And I'm like, and then after you're like, I can't do all those things. So I'm going to do nothing at all. And when we stop enacting and implementing a new habit, there's kind of shame and guilt and like all the feelings to go with it. And we don't need that. We do not need that. It's imperfect action, consistent action. And that's why I love that good, better, best, because for me, it gives me a stretch goal, but also something realistic that I can meet without beating myself up about it. So I love that. Be realistic with something that you can actually do. Do you have another
and then so the other thing related to that was in July I launched the product Sparticles. So the whole challenge was my decision for that challenge was to launch a product or formalize a product that I call Sparticles. And I'm sure many copywriters do a form of this, which is just when you're given an audio file and they say, can you do something with this? Can you put this in, make this into written content? I was doing that over and over again with a number of different clients, and I realized that I was systemizing it. And then I realized, these are just speaking articles, Sparticles. And I kind of, I don't know, and it's just kind of for fun. Again, it's kind of been an experiment. But what it meant is I then was able to create a really quite a big post about what Sparticles were and are and how they help people. So I wrote a post about 10 different ways that they help. And what that means is that I've effectively got 10 weeks worth of points to put up on my social media, all relating to one article that sits on my website and one service. So even if what has happened is people have found out about Sparticles, but they've come and asked me to do an SEO audit, or they've come and asked me to write a website for them. So it creates a little bit of curiosity. It gives me something to talk about again and again and again on social media, but always from a slightly different angle, and always, I guess, from a benefits angle. Like why should I do this? Because it saves you 7 minutes, so you don't have to think about what to say, so you don't have to worry about headlines, so you don't have to worry about your SEO. And so it's just become a way of just saying the same thing in many different ways, but being quite true to what I offer, and a little bit, I don't know, keeping a bit of fun in it as well.
Let's have fun. So give us a quick overview of what the Sparticle service is.
So what happened, what most people, business owners, especially busy business owners and stressed out marketing people, is that they have a lot of ideas, and they're either they can't write, or they can't think of ideas of what to write about, or they're just disinclined to write. But people are often very able to speak. They can speak for hours on their areas of expertise. But if you can grab 7 minutes of their expertise, you can create 1,000-word blog or article or newsletter or email from 7 minutes. And what I really love about that is I can sculpt those words into an article. So it's not just a pure transcript. It's one which reshapes what they're saying in a way that they don't have to worry about it. They don't have to worry about introduction or subheadings or call to action or anything like that. I shape all of that for them. All I need is their raw words, but their expertise. And the payoff for me is I don't have to worry about research and digging in to find the expertise that they already have in their head.
Yeah, and I think a big part of this is how much we do it, other business owners do it, discount how much they already know because of the hurdles of writing. And that's why we can help other people. But I love that, 7 minutes, you worked out it's 1,000 words, and you can make something really quite amazing from that. And it's minimal effort for the person who's recording the audio. I mean, they've got to talk some good things, but it removes all the barriers of blocks of actually creating
Yeah.
content.
And they're often already actually creating quite good content, audio content. So they're already doing YouTube videos often. They have even sparticalized a Facebook Live that someone did and kept the recording of. And so it can be existing content as well. So you can take a 30-minute YouTube video and you can create a really big kind of 3,000 word piece of expertise for them to put onto their website, or you can cut it into little pieces and pull out the 3 key themes, say, and put them into separate blogs. So length is actually, and duration is really no issue. What is important is that there is a lot of audio out there which may not be accessible or visible or available to customers of those business owners who might really get something from it if they're not going onto YouTube already, you know.
Yeah. Firstly, I just want to draw your attention to sparticalized. I love the service into a verb, absolute perfection. But, you know, so what we're talking about so far, like, is really repurposing. So if you or a client is struggling to come up with content ideas, look at the talent bank you already have. Podcasts you've been on, videos you've created, conversations that have already happened with people, and ask yourself, not how can I necessarily rewrite this in all new ways, but how can I splice and dice this? Because you just said earlier, you turned one blog, that is the potential for 10 different conversations on social media, and every blog has that potential. So repurposing is absolutely key. Experimenting, I love this. You also said systemizing, and that's really about creating almost like a checklist of steps. How has that helped where you're following the same process every time? What does that make possible for you?
When it comes to offering it anything as a service, it just makes it more efficient. You get a much better, as a copywriter, you just get a much better kind of rate per hour and return on your time. From a content creator perspective, it means it gets done. The systemization means it gets done. So every week after I have done my social media, it is rescheduled for the following week, and I choose which days and I time block it out. And I didn't used to do that. It used to be squeezed in around everything, but I'm effectively treating myself as my client.
Yes.
I am me. I am my client. And so I have to find time, and I put it into my calendar. So it's there now every week.
I love it. Prioritize. We have so many ings: prioritizing, systemizing, experimenting, repurposing. There is so many ways. And I think the key is to just start and embrace that imperfection, because has it not got easier the more you do it?
It has. But also I don't beat myself up if I cringe sometimes, because I'm like, just roll with it. It's easier. It does get easier. It doesn't mean it's perfect every time, and it doesn't mean it's easy. It's easier.
It's easier. No, that's important.
And there's a little bit of a kind of adrenaline rush each week, because this is we're putting ourselves out. We're making ourselves very visible. I would absolutely never kind of take the weight of that for granted, but just doing a little bit each week has massively helped my confidence over the last year. And I think anyone who just taking the action and getting it up, there really is very little to lose and everything to gain.
Yes, absolutely. And going back to something you said at the beginning, which is something we've talked about, is when you're starting out, you're like, I'm going to start a blog, or I'm going to post on Facebook. No one's reading, because no one knows you're there yet. And I think that's the perfect space to practice. And I know you did a lot of publishing on Medium and stuff like that. You just published, like you said, just to build the habit of writing and publishing. And then the more you write, the more you publish, the better you get, the easier it gets. And so I think one of the stories we tell ourselves is that as soon as we publish something, everyone we know and respect and like is going to go, oh, what's this? And it's just not true. And I think we can use that to change the story in our head. And I also love the fact that you're tracking the results, because they will have an impact. The more consistent you are, the way you keep showing up. And I love that you can already say, I am getting leads directly from the fact that I am consistently posting and showing up. It's so good. It's a win-win. As you said, nothing to lose and everything to gain. So, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, it also strikes me that for this social media, this organic type of social media, there is very little cost. I haven't paid any LinkedIn ads and I haven't paid for any Instagram ads, but I can tell you I've had thousands of dollars worth of income come from LinkedIn without having, by showing up. The investment is in your time, and it's just about showcasing your expertise. And all of us have it. All of us have that expertise. We all know more than our clients, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And if you've been publishing for a little while, repurpose. Totally look at how you can reuse. And, just on that, Ben, I have a spreadsheet where I have all my blogs since 2011. So I started business, registered in 2009, went full-time in 2010, didn't start a blog until way into 2011. I just did social media, so you don't have to have a blog in order to have a business. But I started storing all the blogs that I was writing with the social media posts that went with them, which meant I can repost old posts over and over again and get new eyes on them, because that's something we often forget is reposting, resharing, repurposing. And that spreadsheet for me is the powerhouse of all my content marketing 10 years later. I'm still resharing posts and still sharing tweets from it and nuggets and insights. And I've turned those posts into videos and courses and products. So just starting, because it will pay off, if not immediately, which it will, but definitely down the track. So give a plug for Spartacles and tell everyone where they can find you. Thank you for joining me today and talking about this, because I think there's a lot of stories we tell ourselves. So tell us where to find you and about Spartacles one more time.
So you can find Spartacles on spartacles.com.au, and you can also find them in theinkrat.com.
Awesome.
Where everything else is.
I'm going to post that in the comments for everyone. 7 minutes of audio turned into amazing content that you can use. So around, if you're a copywriter as well, this is the perfect way to just get it done, get it started. Examine the blocks. Why aren't you doing this? Get someone to help you. And the Inkrat is your website as well, right? The Inkrat.com. That's right. And of course, as we know now, you are on LinkedIn and Instagram.
I am.
So thank you so much. And congratulations on being the Confident Copywriter in the spotlight for this month. Keep up the amazing work. You're smashing it. And I can't wait to see what you do in 2023.
Thank you so much, Belinda. You're absolutely amazing. You're the one who's lifting me up and getting me there. You've just been incredible. Thank you so much.
Love fest. I love it. All right. Well, I'll see you in Confident Copywriting. Everyone, follow Renanda. She's a beautiful writer. Follow her on Medium and LinkedIn and all the places. And we'll chat soon. Bye-bye.